always, or almost always, speaks from the teleprompter. Someone is writing his scripts. Who do you think is calling the shots here?
Well, he does something that I've never seen before. He calls on somebody to ask a question, then he reads the answer from the teleprompter. How about that? I mean, that's something, they didn't give me that option, I will tell you that.
Well, that does raise the question, who is calling the shots? Who is writing the scripts? Who is calling the shots?
Look, I
Who's
have my
pulling the strings?
opinions as to who calling the shots. I think it's a group of people, but I have a very strong opinion as to who, but I'd rather not say at this moment. But they are calling the shots. It's a very funny thing. There's nothing funny about it, unfortunately, but it's something that is rather incredible. They do horrible things, vicious things. They cheat, they steal, they lie, but they can't do a simple withdrawal from a country that we should have never gone into in the first place. They can't do a simple withdrawal. We should have hit that country years ago and hit them really hard and then let it rot. But we should have never done what we did. That was a bad, bad decision. But somebody's calling shots, or a group of people are calling shots. I have my own very strong opinions on it.
Well, tell us,
we'll
Mr.
talk
President.
about it later.
I mean, you got to tell us a little bit here. I mean, if the President of the United States is not thinking...
Let's see if it's right. But I will say this. No, normally he doesn't take questions. He just turns his back on the American public. This is a time you have to take questions. Normally he doesn't take questions. But when he reads the answer to a question, and he always picks certain people, but when he reads the answer, they give him a question, and then he starts reading the answer off a teleprompter, that shows you how dishonest the press is. The media is unbelievably dishonest, far more dishonest. One thing I brought out is the dishonesty of the media, because their approval rating is almost as low as Congress right now, which is a wonderful, I'm glad people get it. But when they give him a question, Stuart, and he reads the answer off a teleprompter, that means he knew the questions. Nobody ever told me the questions. This is Donna Brazile all over again, the famous Donna Brazile, a member of Fox for a short time. That was not good for Fox.
What are you expecting from the President this afternoon? Do you think he will admit to any mistakes, or will he look on the bright side and say, I ended the longest war?
No, all they'll do is say, we're out. They don't talk about the people killed. They don't talk about the sacrifices made by so many. Thousands of people, thousands of our soldiers killed, hundreds of thousands of people killed, hundreds of thousands. You look at both sides. And very importantly, we have been humiliated as a major player. Our allies aren't going to look at us the same. You know, our allies took advantage of us for years. And I let people know it, and I let them know it. And they started paying in NATO, where they really took advantage of us. Trading partners took tremendous advantage, the European nation. European Union was worse. The European Union was as bad as China, or almost as bad as China, in terms of us with trade. And yet we protected them militarily with NATO, which is largely the same group of nations. I will say this. They have lost tremendous respect for the United States of America. And when I was president, they had unbelievable respect for us. But they have lost tremendous respect for our country. Tremendous. Beyond anything imaginable.
Angela Merkel, Chancellor of Germany, is talking about continuing an operation to get people out, even though America has now left. So they are continuing to get people out, or trying to at least. Are we?
Well,
should we?
Well, we should. We can't leave Americans behind.
How do we do it?
There was no reason to do that.
How do we do it?
I spoke with Abdul, the leader of the Taliban, on a number of occasions, and it was very tough conversations. And I said, we know where you live. We know everything about you. We know about your people, your top people. Some of them let out because of Bergdahl, who was a traitor. They let him out. They gave 5 people, 3 of whom became top people in the Taliban, probably were before. But I had a very, very tough conversation with him. They weren't going to do anything until Biden came in. Once Biden came in, it was different. It was different with Iran. It was different with China. It was different with many nations. But it was certainly different with Afghanistan, and the way they treated us, it was like day and night, like day and night. They literally would have done anything. They didn't want to be bombed, and we were bombing the hell out of them, and we made a great deal where we can withdraw. We wanted to withdraw. I wanted to withdraw. I didn't want to go in the first place, but I made a deal where we would have withdrawn with our people, with our equipment. We were in no rush. We were in no hurry. Just get the hell out, but get it all out and get all of the people out. And they didn't follow that scenario. They immediately caved to the Taliban, which they should have never done. And if you look at the map, the Taliban wasn't gaining. They gained all of that ground after I left. You look, I saw your map once where you put up a map where it starts off with some red and then it gets redder, redder, redder. Take a look at that map and look what happened after I left. They took over the country. And there was no fear of America anymore. They had great fear before. Our soldiers are great. We have great generals, but they're not the television generals. They're not the guys you see on television, who I think have made fools out of themselves and out of our country. The generals we have representing us on television have made fools out of our country. But I dealt with generals directly. I went to Iraq, and I dealt with generals directly in fighting ISIS. And they knocked them out in 4 weeks. We knocked them out. And it was an amazing thing. Nobody could believe it. But they were real generals. And someday I'll give you their names, too.
Okay.
But they probably would rather remain anonymous. But they knocked the hell out of them.
123,000 people were evacuated from Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Not all of them were properly vetted. What kind of reception should we give them when they come to America?
Well, you have to find out who they are. The terrorists, I guarantee there's many terrorists in the lot. They already found a couple of criminal rapists that came in. You read that story this morning. But many of those people, they were just running onto the planes. There was no vetting. There was no anything. It's pretty hard to vet when a country is in the condition that they were. But there was no vetting. And maybe worst of all is we gave them a list of all the Americans in Afghanistan. And I guarantee you they have far more than the 100 or even the 250 that they talk about. But we gave them a list of all of the Americans, and somebody told me that the list had a lot of Afghans that helped us on it also. Those people are in serious trouble.
Are we in a hostage situation?
Can you imagine giving them a list?
Is this a mass hostage situation?
Everybody. Excuse me?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir, but is this a mass hostage situation?
Well, it could be. They have a list now of all Americans and also many Afghans, and it was given to them, I think, under the pretense of, we'd like these people to be allowed to come onto the plane. It's just like incredible. But they got a list of many people who are still there, and those people are in serious trouble. Serious trouble. The level of incompetence on this withdrawal is even far greater than the level of incompetence at the southern border. I had the tightest border we've ever had. And that included for drugs, for people, for terrorists, for everybody. I had the tightest border, and within 4 months, we had the worst border. It is now millions of people are coming into our country through our southern border. It's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 8 months is a disgrace.
What should President Biden say to the American people this afternoon? Not what you think he might say, but what you think he should say.
He should say, I'm sorry, because that's what he owes an apology. And when he kept looking at his watch yesterday, I've been to Dover many times. When he kept looking at his watch yesterday at Dover with the parents and spouses of people that were killed, the Marines and the Navy, the sailor that was killed, and he's looking at his watch like, get me the hell out of here. I want to go home. Get me out. I want to go home. I mean, how many times did he look at his watch? When he did that yesterday, it was a disgrace. I think the best thing he can do is apologize to the American people and apologize to the world. We had a lot of help in Afghanistan, and we left, and everybody else had to leave with us. But, the whole world deserves an apology. He gave it. He handed them a country one of the best armed countries anywhere in the world, with the best equipment in the world, better than our soldiers have. He handed them a country on a silver platter. He ought to apologize and stop trying to, excuse the language, bullshit everybody into thinking that what he did was good. We should have withdrawn, but we should have withdrawn in a totally different way. With great dignity, it would have been a tremendous win for us.
Mr. President, I'd like to move on and talk about COVID and vaccinations, if we may.
Right.
Britain had a Freedom Day, July the 19th, removed all restrictions, and they're now doing rather well. Florida has removed all restrictions, and to put it bluntly, so they're catching hell. How do you feel about opening up, having a Freedom Day like Britain?
We've got to open up. We've got to open up our country. Our country is artificially induced. If you look at the money that's being poured into our country through different things, including the Fed, including deals that are being made in Congress where they have a majority, so they're able to pass things like that fake infrastructure deal where it's 11% infrastructure, and even that's not real infrastructure, a lot of it. And you go 1.2 trillion. Now they want 3.5 trillion. And someday that whole act is going to come to a very bad crashing end. It's very bad. But open up our country. Open it up. You know, it's interesting that states that have been very open or more open have done better than the ones that are closed in terms of COVID itself. And we did a great job on COVID, including the fact that I got a vaccine done in less than 9 months, which would have taken 5 years. But we did a great job, but now it's time to open up. And I see what they're doing in Europe, and I see what they're doing elsewhere. We have to follow suit.
Soon, to go to work or travel in America, you're going to need a vaccination passport or proof of vaccination. Do you approve of that?
Yeah. No, I don't. I don't. People have to have a choice. I believe in the vaccine. I'm the one that got them to get it done. Without me, you wouldn't have it for 5 years, and you would have had millions of people throughout the world dead. You would have lost millions and millions of people. But with all of that said, I recommend people take it. But you can't take away their freedoms.
Last one about the markets, if I may. We're going to open up the Wall Street in about 9 minutes. We're opening up at or very close to all-time record highs. The Dow Industrials have doubled since you were elected president in November of 2016. Are you fully invested in the market?
No, I'm not. I really am not too much. I was never a big stock market person, but, you know, I did for a period of time, and it was good. You know, if it goes the right way, it's good. If it goes the wrong way, it's not good. But, you know, I built a foundation that was so strong with with all of the things, including the tax cuts. I hope they don't get rid of the tax cuts, because if they do, you're going to see companies leaving our country again. Many companies came into our country after I got elected because of the tax cuts and because of the fact that they could we took in trillions of dollars of money that was outside our country that couldn't be taken in, and they used it within our country because I made it possible to bring that money back in before it was impossible. But we created a foundation that was so strong that we had the best economy in history, and then we had the pandemic, and then we built it a second time, and we handed over the foundations of something great. And I just hope they don't blow it.
Do you ever dabble in Bitcoin or cryptos?
I don't. I like the currency of the United States. I think I think the others are potentially a disaster waiting to happen. I don't know. I feel that it hurts the United States currency. I think we should we should be invested in our currency, not in, they may be fake. Who knows what they are? But they certainly are currencies. They certainly are something that people don't know very much about. No, I have not been, I have not been a big fan.
Will you tell us your role in the elections in 2022 and 2024?
Well, I'm endorsing a lot of good people, and it seems like people can't get elected, and they can't get a nomination unless they have my endorsement. We're 128-2 so far over a very short period. I'll be announcing some further endorsements. The whole movement. There's never been a movement like we have right now. There's never been, whether you call it America First, Make America Great Again, and that's what we need right now, make America great again after this disaster in Afghanistan. But I'm seeing a lot of people that are running for office, and we're making our recommendations and endorsements. And when I do, we just had a big victory in Ohio. We had a victory in Texas. They like to try and claim a little bit different. We actually had 2 Republicans won in Texas, first time in years. And we had a great congressional candidate come out of that one. But we've had many, many victories, as you know. I mean, you cover it very well, including heads of the Republican Party in various states and some very important states. So we'll be choosing a candidate to run against Liz Cheney, who's gone off her rocker, and some others. And I think you're going to find them to be really great candidates. About America First. It's about, as I said, make America great again. And that's the people I'm looking for.
Mr. President, thank you very much indeed for joining us today. It's always a pleasure. We're hoping you come back soon. Thank you.